Chapter 181. Gerald was also stunned. Thompson's villa is the most valuable property in the hands of the entire White family. This house is owned by Solomon, the current owner of the White family and the uncle of Gerald. Solomon, Fred White's father, is currently the head of the White family, while Gerald's father is only the second in command. This villa, let alone Gerald, even Gerald's dad is greedy, but there is no way, their family simply can't afford such an expensive villa. Hearing that the uncle even gave this villa to Charlie, Gerald was also extremely shocked and uncomfortable, and immediately said to Wendy, "Wait a moment, I will ask my uncle." Wendy hung up the phone, gritted her teeth, and looked at Charlie, and questioned, "Charlie, what can you do to trick this villa from uncle?" Charlie said lightly, "Mr. Solomon chased me to give away this villa to me." "You nonsense!" Wendy blurted out suddenly, "You have nothing to do with the White family. How could Uncle White give you such an expensive house for no reason? You must have used some shameful means." At this time, Gerald called Wendy and said, "Wendy, my uncle seemed to be busy, so he just hung up my phone after saying a word." Charlie sneered, and directly took out the phone to turn on the speakerphone and dialed Solomon's number. With a beep, the phone was connected instantly. Wendy was stunned on the spot. "Mr. Wade." Solomon's voice was full of flattery. "Mr. Wade should have visited the villa at Thompson? I wonder if Mr. Wade is satisfied?" Charlie said directly, "I saw the villa, and it's not bad overall, it is interesting." Solomon hurriedly said, "Mr. Wade, you like it?" Charlie said calmly, "I just called to tell you that I'm quite satisfied with the villa. If you have any needs, please tell me at any time, and I will try my best to solve it. Try to make Mr. Wade satisfied." The crowd around was silent and in shock. Unexpectedly, this villa was actually given to Charlie by Solomon. Why? Unexpectedly, Solomon, who had to be respectful even after meeting his fiancée, would kneel and lick Charlie's rubbish like a dog. This made Wendy feel hot on her face, and she couldn't help her face. She finally couldn't help but asked aloud to Charlie's cell phone, "Uncle White, I am Gerald's fiancée Wendy. You will never give the villa to Charlie for no reason." "What is the reason?" "Hey, what are you? You deserve to ask about my personal affairs?" Solomon said coldly. Wendy's face was hot. Charlie said lightly, "Solomon, you should explain to them, otherwise, they will think I lied to you." "Okay." Solomon said immediately, "Since Mr. Charlie has said it, let me explain to the public that I owe Mr. Charlie a great favor, so I gifted this villa. I would like to thank the clowns if they do dare to doubt Mr. Charlie, I will definitely not let it go." Wendy was aggrieved for a while. How could she have been scolded so severely? Her face flushed, and she almost cried aggrieved. Seeing that Wendy was so aggrieved and crying, Noah Wilson's face couldn't get through, and he coughed to please and said, "Ms. White, Wendy is still a child. She is also curious and has no other meaning." Solomon ignored him and said respectfully, "Mr. Charlie, do you need me to explain anything?" "That's it." Charlie nodded. "Then I won't bother Mr. Charlie, please call me whenever you have to." Charlie let out at them and hung up the phone. Chapter 182. "Charlie, is this really the villa the White family gave you?" Jacob reacted and opened his mouth in surprise. "Dad, yes." Charlie smiled. "This you?" Jacob stammered, feeling like he was dreaming. Claire hurriedly supported him. "Dad, go sit over there and take some rest." Now that Mr. White explained the situation, everyone knows about the villa. Charlie got it right. Claire emphasized the words "just gain," specifically speaking to a group of relatives in the Wilson family. Horia clutched her heart in disbelief, and muttered, "This White family is really a big deal. If they want to give a mansion of hundreds of millions, why not give it to us?" Not only she couldn't figure it out, others also found it incredible, and even Harold was jealous. They can't afford such a mansion for 10 lifetimes. But why did the pie that fell from the sky hit Charlie, a wasteful body? What kind of luck is this? Noah's face was pale. It didn't matter that he was ignored by Solomon, but he felt that this villa should be his daughter's property in the future, and it was in Charlie's hands in a blink of an eye. making him totally unacceptable. He looked at his crying daughter and then at Charlie, feeling even more sullen in his heart. He hadn't looked down on Jacob for a long time, but now he was crushed by a daughter-in-law. What a shame! Noah said sternly, Charlie, tell everyone, what kind of favor does Mr. White owe you? You are not going to help Mr. White under the banner of the Wilson family? Charlie said lightly, this is my personal business, so please tell me. He turned around and said to Lebo, it's getting late, let's see off the guests. Noah Wilson claims to be an elder, but in his eyes, he's not even a bullsh *T. Uncle Lebo nodded respectfully and said to the crowd, I'm sorry, I will send everyone to the door. Noah touched a grey nose, hummed with anger, and walked out with a calm face. Wendy stared at Charlie bitterly and resentfully, and then walked out. The family almost broke down in their hearts. How can they not be so high? How they used to look at the live-in son-in-law, now unexpectedly he hit the big luck. At this time, Lebo closed the door and went back to the guest room without disturbing Charlie's family. Harold's family is gone. Claire then asked, Charlie, now you should tell us the truth, White always owes you something. Charlie hesitated for a while, still not thinking about how to explain it. A few days ago, the White family pulled Jinghai into the game and wanted to unify the Aurus Hill metaphysics, but Jinghai was struck to death by his own Thunder Order. The White family was afraid that he would condemn them as well, so the host sent him the gift of Villa to admit defeat. They were also afraid that Charlie would be angry and would kill them. After thinking about it, Charlie said, I helped White's family see feng shui, so they gave me this villa. Who? Claire and her parents were shocked. Charlie, are you helping people with feng shui? Claire's eyes widened. Charlie nodded, yes. Claire asked puzzledly, where did you learn feng shui? Charlie smiled and said, on TV, there are many feng shui programs on TV. Claire panicked and blurted out, you are crazy. Watching TV and dare to show people feng shui, and dare to accept such an expensive villa. Chapter 183. Seeing Claire panicked, Charlie smiled and said with relief, my wife, don't worry about the villa, the king will never come to trouble. Jacob kept shaking his head, no, last time you helped the Qin family with feng shui and spent hundreds of millions to procure those shells, and now the White family is looking for you again. These two families are both reputable families in Aurus Hill City. Just your little knowledge of feng shui. Sooner or later we have to wear clothes. In case they are held accountable, our family will have to follow suit. As he said, Jacob said hurriedly, you should return the villa to the White family soon, otherwise, if someone tries to settle after the fall, we are all over. At this moment, Charlie's mother-in-law Elaine blurted out, what's the return? This big villa was given to Charlie by Mr. White, and it was not stolen by Charlie. Why pay it back? In the future, this is our home, our villa. Elaine had never thought in her life that she would have the opportunity to live in such a luxurious villa. Now that the villa has been acquired, Jacob said that he would go back. Isn't this like killing her? Claire shouted helplessly, Mom. We can't collect this kind of stuff, it will be very troublesome in the future. Trouble you ***. Elaine snorted disdainfully, then looked at Charlie and said flatly, oh, Charlie, I didn't expect you to have such a great ability to earn a big villa. Elaine smiled all over her face and said excitedly, you are really a good son-in-law. If you go to show others feng shui early, wouldn't our family be rich already? Jacob really couldn't stand it, and said, wife, this is not about the villa. Even if Charlie shows them feng shui, he can accept a villa like this. If the White family regrets it in the future, won't they hate us? Elaine jumped 3 feet high and pointed to Jacob's nose and cursed, don't tell me those who have nothing, I have suffered from poverty all my life with you, and now it's hard to live in a big villa, don't you want it? I tell you, if you dare to let your son-in-law return back this villa, I will divorce you. You are a mouse giving the cat 3 losses, you don't want to make money. Jacob was so angry that he couldn't speak, and sat down on the sofa. Charlie smiled and said, Dad, don't worry, this villa will not be taken away. Good son-in-law, you are really capable. Elaine looked around, touching antiques for a while, painting and calligraphy for a while, and was overjoyed. Let him show off Noah Wilson. Now I live in a big villa. They can only buy a flat outside. It's really 30 years. 30 years in that dilapidated house. Claire couldn't stand it anymore, so she pulled Charlie to the side and whispered, "You tell me the truth, what is going on?" Charlie said, "My wife. Don't worry, it's definitely a legitimate income. But now I am inconvenient to say that I will tell you if I have a chance in the future. Since you said that there is a reason, then I believe you." Claire thought for a while and said, "But look at Feng Shui, you still don't do it again, lest my dad and I be worried about it." Charlie took the opportunity to take her hand and said, "Don't worry, I won't do things that worry you. Dad has been urging to have children. What should you do if I have an accident? Don't give me poor mouth." Claire blushed and quickly broke free. At this moment, Elaine happily came down the stairs and shouted while walking, "When I return from a trip next week, I will call all the people I know and come to see the big villa I bought." Claire said, "Mom, the villa was given to Charlie. He is our son-in-law, and the villa that is his is also ours." Chapter 184. Elaine triumphantly shook the bracelet in her hand. "I have already sent a WeChat moment. Look at this bracelet, there is also the big villa, others will like me." Charlie looked at Elaine's bracelet. Qinggang gave it to him and he intended to give it to his wife. He didn't want to make it cheap to his mother-in-law. The royal mansion. Gerald stood in the hall and reported what he had learned on the phone to his father. After speaking, he hesitated for a while, then raised his head and said, "Dad, isn't the uncle confused? Such an expensive villa, if I haven't lived in a day, I will give it to Charlie, that stupid bird. You have to persuade him." The Gerald's father was sitting on the Grandmaster's chair, his face solemn. Gerald returned to report, saying that his uncle had given the villa to Charlie. He didn't believe it, so he went to ask his elder brother Solomon for verification, but he didn't expect this to be true. Moreover, Solomon also downplayed the reason for giving away the villa, only owing to Charlie a favor. What kind of favor let the extremely stingy Solomon give away such an expensive mansion? The king said with a cold face, "I have already called your uncle. He seems to have a very determined attitude. He wants to return the villa, which is unlikely." Gerald gritted his teeth and said, "Dad, do you think Charlie has any problems? We have been investigating for so long, but we can't find any real news about him, which is strange." The prince pondered for a while, and then said slowly, "Your uncle has been shrewd throughout his life, and he will never indulge Charlie for anything, so no matter what problem Charlie has, in short, this person, you must not provoke in the near future. I will check with your uncle in the evening to see what background this person has." "Yes." At the same time, Noah Wilson and his family are suing the old Mrs. Wilson. Wendy snorted and cried with tears, "Grandma, Charlie, I don't know what means he used to deceive the White family's villa in Thompson. It is a villa worth more than 100 million. Moreover, he got the villa, and didn't take the initiative to honor you, and drove our family out of the villa. Isn't this too much?" Old Mrs. Wilson sat on the main seat. Her expression was majestic, and her expression was also very dissatisfied with a cold snort. "This kid Charlie really doesn't understand the rules." "Yeah, Mom. He is so shameless," Noah said with a calm face. He, as the son-in-law of the Wilson family, naturally should know that any good things in the Wilson family must be enjoyed by you first. The location of your villa is remote and the decoration is old. It should have been replaced a long time ago. If he really has you in his heart, he must first give you the Thompson first-class villa. Let you enjoy it first." As soon as these words were spoken, Mrs. Wilson's eyes suddenly lit up. Wilson's villa has been her living for more than 10 years. Although it looks impressive, it is already an old property. Coupled with the relatively poor location, it can sell for 10 to 20 million. Thompson's villa is 100 times better than here. The Lady Wilson herself is very greedy, but she can't afford it because she has no money. But when she heard that Charlie had the largest villa of Thompson First Class and Noah's fanfare, she also felt that this villa should really be enjoyed by her, the head of the family. Chapter 185. When the old Mrs. Wilson was dreaming of living in the Thompson villa, Noah Wilson rubbed her hands and said with a long sigh, "Mom, I plan to send someone to East Cliff in the near future and invite Elsa's family to come as a guest. Then tell them cryptically, hoping that they will engage Elsa to Harold. What do you think?" Dong's family, Mrs. Wilson sighed and said, "Last time Harold left Elsa and ran away by himself, I guess Elsa has a big opinion of him now." Noah said, "I think this little thing is harmless. This family and that family are themselves a complement to each other. What everyone values is the future development prospects. Although our Wilson family is not comparable to the Dong family, we have got the Emgrand group. The cooperation between the two parties is still promising in the future. Maybe the Dong family will agree to this marriage." Old Mrs. Wilson thought for a while, nodded and said, "In this case, you try to invite them to see if the Dong family are interested in coming to Oris Hill as a guest." "Okay." Noah hurriedly said again, "Mom, the Dong family is a big family. If we don't have a decent villa and we lose face in front of the Dong family, it won't work." After speaking, he said again, "If you can get the Thompson first-class villa from Charlie's hands, then the Dong family will be a guest. Seeing the Thompson first-class villa, you will also take a high look at our Wilson family." "You said what?" Old Mrs. Wilson nodded. People rely on clothing, exuberance of gold, and living standards in a villa of more than 100 million worth. It will naturally greatly improve the family's face. In addition, she was coveting Charlie's first-class Thompson villa in her heart. This was just a chance to start. So she said majestically, "Bring your brother's family to the old house tomorrow. I will tell them personally." Brother Harold glanced at each other and was delighted. Now Jacob's family relies on the company for food, and Jacob's family is under the family. As long as the Lady Wilson speaks, how can Jacob's family stand? The Lady Wilson asked them to surrender the villa. Dare they say a word? With the Lady Wilson's preference for her own home, as long as this villa comes from Charlie's hands, it will be her own in the future. Early the next morning, Jacob led his daughter and son-in-law and hurried to the old house of the Wilson family. Claire opened the car door and asked, "Dad, Grandma specifically called you to go there. Didn't she say anything important?" "I'll talk about it if I go." Jacob said, "And your Uncle Noah will also come along." Charlie's brows frowned, and seeing the battle, it seemed that there was nothing good. Claire said angrily, "What else can happen? I guess it must be the villa." "About the villa, Charlie will explain it to your grandma in a while." Jacob didn't think too much, got into the car, and urged Charlie to drive. At 9:30, the car drove to the door of Wilson's old house. The family walked into the hall. Charlie glanced around, frowning slightly. He saw the old Mrs. Wilson sitting in the middle chair, with Noah standing next to her, and Harold brother and sister standing on the other side. In addition to them, there are several relatives of the elders of the Wilson family sitting on both sides of the main room, and several younger generations of the Wilson family standing on both sides, staring at them. Isn't it just the trivial matter of traveling that has a three-counseling framework? Jacob is, as his name suggests, he is very honest at ordinary times, and he can't beat a bullsh*t with 3 sticks.